So one of the things that I've been working with in a leadership program with some of the leaders in my organization is, what would today be like if you showed up as the very best version of yourself? See, I see a lot of people and we want to change our lives, right? We want to change who we are. And we see this if you kind of look at like, what are people Googling on YouTube? Like, how do you become, a better version of yourself? How do you change yourself? How do you transform yourself? And we want this change, right? We want to be this unattainable person that we believe will be happy, will be more successful. Often when we think of the future version of ourselves, somehow that person has achieved different things. And so somehow we are happier, right? That's kind of what drives us. I'll be happier when. And so we think, oh my gosh, I have to change all these things about myself. I have to be so different from who I am in order to be that version, in order to have those things. And that can feel intimidating. That can feel overwhelming. That can feel like, how do I get from point A to point B? Like that seems like it's not point A to point B. That seems like point A to point Z from where I am to where I want to be. So I want to give you a tool to maybe shorten that and to maybe shift how you think about that future version of yourself that you're wanting to create, that you're wanting to show up. What if you asked yourself every morning, what if I just showed up today as the best version of me? The version of you that is already there. Not this version that's kind of out there someplace else that you're hoping that's going to show up. Not this version that feels unattainable. Not this version that is somebody else's kind of, oh, I want to be like that person. And if I can just kind of become like that person, but just the person that you truly already are. Like the very best version of you, the pure version of you, the version that God created you to be. The person that was that little kid with those crazy big dreams and goals and aspirations. I was in an airport and I watched this little girl. We were kind of sitting there as a layover and everybody was tired. It was late. It was crowded. It was late at night. And there was this little girl and she was just dancing around the airport. And she kept going, Daddy, Daddy, look at me, look at me. And, you could see this poor dad. He was kind of tired. He was like, oh, okay, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. And I'm just watching this little girl and she had just complete joy and abandonment. And she did not care who in that airport was watching her. She was right out there in the middle, dancing and spinning and laughing and so happy and so comfortable in her own skin. It probably never occurred to her that somebody was looking at her. If anything, when she could see I was looking at her, and I kind of smiled at her and she smiled back like, yay, someone's looking at me. She was just so completely content in who she was. And she was just giggling and laughing and so filled with joy. And I sat there and I thought, boy, if I had the joy that child has in her body in my one finger, right? That is the kind of joy that I would love. And I thought to myself, I wonder how long that will last. I wonder how long she will stay in that complete abandonment of joy, in not worrying about what other people are thinking, in just being her. Because it's somewhere along the way, we all were that little girl. We all were that little girl who spun around the room, who was dancing, who didn't care, who thought the world was beautiful and everybody in it was beautiful. And it was light and sunshine. And then somewhere along the way, that changes, that shifts. And we become aware of how other people judge us and look at us and see us. And we develop habits that no longer serve us. We develop habits that maybe comfort us in the moment, but don't serve our best self. And then years and years and years go by and we forget that that's who we were. We forget that bright, shining, light soul that we were. And so if we can start to show up and reconnect with the person who we already are, the best version of us, the version that shows up and doesn't react to everything that happens, but responds in life, the version that's grounded and filled with peace and is in alignment and on purpose, the version that doesn't get triggered by everything else, the version that's not in comparison, and the version that's not worried about what everybody else is thinking about us, but the version that's truly the best version of us, the one that shows up on point, that levels up, that thinks bigger, that talks different, that sits different. Like, just think about that right now, how you're sitting. If you were the very best version of yourself right now, if you were showing up in the world right now as the best version of you, would you be sitting differently? Would you be breathing differently? Would you be dressing differently? What would you be doing right now? And would it be different than what you're doing right now? How would you be thinking differently? That's a key one. How does the best version of you think different? And when you start to do that every day, you will be reconnected with who you truly are. And it will no longer be about changing who you are, but about coming home to who you've always been. That best version of you is in you. That version of you never left. We just need to dig that version back out. And it will be a true coming home and stepping back into the skin and the person and the body that you were always destined to be. You don't need to change who you are. You don't need to be different than who you are. You just need to reconnect with who you are and let that greatness come back out to the surface. That greatness dance around the airport again. That greatness that really already was there. And so one of the things that we've been doing as I've been working with my leaders is a little experiment. And I encourage you to try this. Set an alarm on your phone for 3 times during the day. And when that alarm goes off, I just want you to stop what you're doing. Take a deep breath and say, if right now I was showing up as the best version of me, how would I be being? If right now I was showing up as the very best version of me, how would I be being? Not what would I be doing? How would I be being? Because how you're being will shift what you do. But you can do all those things and still not be the best version of yourself, because the best version of yourself sits different, talks different, reacts different, thinks different. And when that starts to change, then what we do naturally starts to change. I just want to encourage you, the best version of you is already there. It is just your choice to dig back down, reconnect with that greatest version of your spirit, that greatest version of yourself, the version that God made you and intended you to be, and then bring that person back out into the world. And that will be your blessing on the rest of us. When you show up as the best version of you, we all get the blessing of your gift.